Once upon a dream, childhood haunts. I'm never coming back here in real life, am I? The three women looked at her sadly. Probably not, child, the green one said, or not for a long time. With your parents dead and no male heir, there will be a terrible mess when you all wake up, assuming we defeat Maleficent, the blue one said. You will either take over the throne and defend it from Serpius' claims of distant cousins, or marry Philip and combine your kingdoms, or some various of those situations, none of which will leave you much time to visit childhood haunts. Aurora sucked in a deep and sudden painful breath. It was the word childhood that stung. Before the dream world, she would have rejected that term. She was 16 and a woman, for heaven's sake. She had chosen the love of her life and had planned to run away with him. But now, the looming permanent closing of a door on her past life seemed a little too uneventful and sad. I wake up and I'm grown up, she said dryly. That's some subtlety there. Philip, who had been silent through the whole exchange, looked at her with concern. Rose, you don't have to be so cynical, he said, scraping for words. Sarcastic? I know the death of your parents had been a grievous blow, but you're becoming... No, changing into something. I don't know. She just looked at him. Not that I don't like it, Philip added quickly. You're just different, that's all. Oh, he's a regular genius, that one, the blue one said. The green one whacked her on the arm. Aurora Rose smiled faintly. Maybe I'm becoming myself. She took Philip's hand and pointed out the window. Come here, let me show you something. I used to climb that tree there, the biggest apple tree. I always thought the best apples were the highest up. I pretended the lower branches were a horse. You can just see the pea trellises there. I loved making them with Aunt Fauna, out of the dried vines and twigs. It was like weaving with plants, and I loved the little curly-cute ends of the peas. I would love you to show me around where you grew up, Philip said gently, squeezing her hand. Whatever you feel for me now, I would enjoy it. Someday. She gave the prince a quick, sad smile, then took his other hand and clasped them both for a moment. I know, but we have other things to do. The three women looked at her approvingly. They moved to the other side of the room and stood by a door Aurora Rose hadn't been sure was there before. She squared her shoulders and looked forward, head held high, imagining she had on robes of state swirling behind her. Philip forward. First thing is to properly suit you two up, the blue fairy said matter-of-factly. She entered a long, broad hall lined with suits of armor, and closets and chests of clothing stuffed to overflowing. Dresses, doublets, capes, and underskirts were all crammed so tightly they looked like the furniture was choking to death on ripples of bright colors. Helmets, snoods, capes, gloves, tippets, girdles, and other accessories were piled haphazardly on shelves. At one time, Aurora Rose would have been thrilled to try on all new and different gowns, but now she strode forward, looking for a nice pair of gauntlets that would fit instead. Philip was like a child in front of a table strewn with candy and sweets. He picked up helmets, held them out, and regarded them with a serious eye, then put them down, only to skip over to the greaves and cuirasses, particularly bubbling with delight. Can't Rose just magic us up protection, like an invisible shield or something? He asked, trying on a breastplate for size. The green one gave him an indulgent look. The less she has to think about, to concentrate on, when the battle is joined, the better. Having these already on may buy you a few extra moments. At first the princess went for the ugliest, most clumsy-looking pieces in defiance of being a princess. But when she went to the tarnished silver oval and served as a mirror and observed her slit-mouthed metal mask, the grotesque gray gauntlets, and the huge-shouldered spiked breastplate, all she saw was a monster. She cocked her head and as did the monster. What was it thinking? Slowly she turned away from the mirror and went back to the racks and cupboards. You want something to inspire your subjects, the green fairy said, gently helping her take the mask off. Not frighten them. I know, Aurora Rose said glumly. The green fairy squeezed her hands through the gauntlets. It's not fair that you don't have time to try on all these different possibilities. The princess gave her a wry look. My subconscious isn't all that subtle either, is it? In our defense, your world experience and reading habits haven't led you to being the most sophisticated person on the planet, the blue fairy said, blowing the dust off what looked very much like a child's shield, complete with big shiny gems on it. She raised a knowing eyebrow. I didn't know I had it in me to be so snarky either, the princess said, putting her hands on her hips. The blue fairy shrugged. I'm calling it like I see it. The red fairy disentangled herself from Philip, with whom she was having a broad laugh about the comparative weight and density of different kinds of steel. Try these, she suggested. She held out a pair of simple long gauntlets that were almost as fine as gloves, chained underneath and plate on top. Aurora Rose carefully took off the one she wore and slipped the others on. They fit perfectly. This is a bit more your style, the blue one said, approaching her with a breastplate that was almost as big as she was. It was carved femininely to fit Aurora Rose's body, but not ridiculously so. A staid design of roses and thorns was inlaid along the sides. It was sturdy and heavy. The princess had to readjust the way she stood to support it, while everyone helped buckle it in the back. And for the top, the red one said, looking around. Let her choose, the green one suggested gently. Aurora Rose walked down the aisle slowly, getting used to the weight of the armor. She passed each of the women and then Philip, dashing in his shiny cuirasses and silver white greaves, like a soldier from ancient Rome. Her eyes swept over everything, everywhere, pausing nowhere. Golden helms, intricate onyx headpieces, spiked and dangerous-looking crowns, plated metal turbans. Finally she saw what she wanted. She strode forward and lifted a helmet. Now she knew would fit, off the top shelf. A point came down the middle of the forehead to protect her nose, and was also vaguely reminiscent of Maleficent's headpiece, but instead of thorns, silver wings swept back over the ears. With slow, sure movements, she put it on. It did fit. Perfectly. She turned around to show the others. Philip sucked in his breath. You look magnificent, Rose, like an ancient goddess of war. Like victory, the green one said softly. The edges of everything around them changed, quietly and unobtrusively. The five found themselves in a large silent room that was a strange mix of what a child might imagine a throne room looked like and the cottage in which Aurora Rose had grown up. The stones that made up the walls were all far too big and simple-looking, the throne giant and garish in gold. There were several fireplaces around the sides instead of the one grand one the Thorn Castle had. And they all looked cozier, each with a little pot and broom by it. The floor was packed dirt with no rugs, and the tables were ridiculously fancy, with huge carved feet and yellow and blue runners down the middle, but set with crude and wood and clay bowls and tureens of porridge. Damn acorns again, Philip swore humorously, lifting a steaming lid. We're not quite as skilled as Maleficent at manipulating your dream world, the blue one apologized. This is what your mind came up with when we asked for a practice room. Let's get to work, the green one said politely, but firmly. We haven't much time. We need to work on summoning first, the blue one said. But do not turn to it immediately in battle. There are rules even in this world. The creation of something from nothing will exhaust you unduly, as you may have already noticed. Better to make do with the things already around you. Keep this as a last resort. You made a sword before, the red one said, tilting her chin at the empty space in Aurora Rose's girdle, where it hung previously. Can you make a dagger? Aurora Rose twitched her nose. She had never seen a dagger. Has she ever seen a dagger? In the Thorn Castle, some men and boys affected them. She had never seen the blades used for anything more than cleaning fingernails, the uncouth, or stabbing food, the slightly more couth. She was pretty sure she had never held one. What about a knife, then? Just a knife? A sharp knife? The red one asked impatiently. Aurora Rose could manage that. Her aunts had never seemed to care when she handled the one very sharp little bronze paring knife. They had let her hold it even as a toddler. She closed her eyes and held out her hands. She remembered the bone handle. She remembered the dull golden gleam. She remembered the sharp, slightly curved tip, perfect for starting to peel the thick rind of fruit or vegetable. She held its weight in her hand even before she opened her eyes. Well done, cheered the green one. Good, the red fairy said impatiently. Now summon 2 more, quickly. Aurora Rose bit her lip. The additional daggers appeared in her palms, which was now sweaty. Great job, Philip said excitedly. Now throw them at the throne, the red one urged. Aurora Rose blinked, then did what she was told. She was good at that. She was not so good at throwing 3 daggers one-handed. They flew not very far and went every which way, clattering on tables and dirt floor. Everyone stared at her. The princess reddened. With your mind, you ninny, the blue one snapped. The green one did not hit the blue one, though it looked like she was sorely tempted. You won't win against Maleficent in a fair hand-to-hand combat, the red one said politely. In this protected part of your mind she can't see in, she won't know how strong your control your own Demson has become. So, try again, with magic. Aurora Rose chewed her lip. Feeling embarrassed and hot, she closed her eyes. Not a good idea in a fight, Philip said gently. Keep your peepers open. Aurora Rose took a deep breath and forced her eyes to stay open, not blinking. She held out her hand. 3 daggers appeared on it. She looked at the throne. The 3 daggers launched themselves through the air and whistled as they flew. Where they hit the back of the giant chair, the tips buried themselves in the wood. She let out her breath. Everyone cheered. That was a strange thing, she realized as she planted and held her cheeks felt her cheeks cool down. Almost like people believed that she could do this. Like she could do this. Great, the red one said. Now grow a hill out of the middle of the floor.